Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. It looks like we're live on YouTube and Instagram, and Max is here with us. I don't think Instagram folks can see my cat, but I suppose YouTube watchers can see a glimpse of Max. Thank you for joining, everyone. Greetings to you from North London. Hello, hello, hello. Jill, Andra. Hi. So nice to see you folks. Thank you for joining. Amanda, hi. Mariana, hi. Christina, hey. Today we're going to be talking about topic of the day, of the century, of the next 2 decades, the great Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. So I'm going to give folks another couple of minutes to join, and then we shall dive right in. Would you be covering this conjunction in soul return charts as well? Yes, because the solar return chart is essentially a tool that we assess to look at what the major themes of the year are going to be for each individual. So it's very important to see where the conjunction is happening. It looks like we had a bit of a challenge on Instagram, but now we are live. Hey! Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining on Instagram as well. YouTube folks, thank you for being so patient. Hello, Katia from Brazil. So Instagram folks who just joined us, today we're going to be talking about the great conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn. I don't know why essentially Instagram did not work the first time when I went live. So I'm already live. I've been live for a couple of minutes on YouTube. Now it looks like everything is working properly on Instagram as well. Looks like we've got a lot of Aquarius energy joining us today, which makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. And I can see folks are also very excited for Saturn to leave Capricorn. I can imagine, especially cardinal signs. I'm looking at you, Capricorn, Aries, Cancers, and Libras. How can I forget Libras? Very, very exciting times for you ahead because, hey, Saturn is no longer going to be squaring you, which is fantastic. So without further ado, everybody, let us dive into the astrology of the great conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn. We are going to be looking at some key dates. We are going to be discussing the symbolism of the great conjunction, how it's likely to play out. Also, we are going to be quite quickly going through what each sign can expect from the Great Conjunction. I do want to start by pointing out the fact that the Great Conjunction is going to take some time to unfold. We may not see the effects of it like on the exact day, on the 21st of December when it's happening. It may take years, and it generally does take years for the effects, for the influences of this conjunction to play out at both a societal and at an individual level. At a societal level, we're going to see the effects and the trends and the changes around us for the next 20 years. until the next great conjunction. At an individual level, essentially, we're probably going to be feeling the themes, the Aquarian themes, both Saturnian and Jupiterian, for at least the next 2.5 years until March 2023, when Saturn is getting out of Aquarius, essentially. So, what is going on? On the 21st of December, my lovelies, we've got the great conjunction happening in an air sign, and it hasn't happened in an air sign for roughly 200 years, with a small exception. So essentially, if you listen to all astrologers, they're going to say we are entering a 200 years long era where the great conjunction is going to take place in air signs, with one exception in the year of, let me tell you when, in 2159, when the great conjunction is going to be happening in the sign of Scorpio. But essentially from now until 2199, there's going to be great conjunctions in air signs over and over and over and over and over again. And there's always this like small exception towards the end of a 200-year cycle that happens when essentially the great conjunction happens in a different sign, in a different element. So we already had an air great conjunction when Saturn and Jupiter came together in Libra in 1981. Just so we have the dates straight. So indeed, it's roughly 200 years of Jupiter and Saturn coming together in air signs, which is incredibly significant in the symbolism of it. We are moving from Earth. We are moving from the conjunctions of Jupiter and Saturn happening in the Earth element to air. There is a huge difference between these two elements. Earth is feminine. It is receiving. It is much more grounded. It's not as fast moving. It's actually like quite stagnant. It moves very, very slowly over long periods of time. Whereas air is masculine, it's action oriented. And by the way, when I say feminine and masculine, I do want to point out, I'm not referring to the genders. We and nature and the universe both and all have feminine and masculine energy in our chart. Let me just put it out there. So it's not, oh, we're moving from like a feminine era to a masculine era. No, we're actually moving from a more passive era, you could think of it that way, to a more action-oriented era. Air is all over the place. You cannot contain air, whereas Earth is staying in place. You could also say that symbolically we are moving from a 200 years long era of focusing on the 3D material reality of what's happening around us, of pragmatism, of consumerism, of money, of capitalism. We are moving towards a greater focus on concepts, on ideas, on intellectual development, on technological development, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Eddie, thank you so much for the super chat. By the way, for those of you who are following me on YouTube now on the live, you can support my channel by sending me super chats, and I very much appreciate them. So, you've also probably heard a lot of people talk about the age of Aquarius, and there actually isn't a lot of agreement between astrologers, astronomers, Theosophists, or whatnot you call them, the ists people, as to whether this is actually accurate or not. And different cultures define the age of Aquarius in different ways, different tradition define it in different ways. I would say we can indeed consider this to be an age of Aquarius. In what sense? There will be significant shifts that bear in the next 20 years, that bear the mark, the symbolic mark of Aquarius, which has to do with progress, with innovation, with technology, etc. But as for entering the 2,000 year long age of Aquarius and saying, oh, we're out of the age of Pisces, gotta say, no one really out there is in alignment with when this is actually happening. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of food for thought. Now, societal trends and advances are reflected in the symbolism of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction happening every 20 years. For those of you who are into astrology a little bit more, you probably know that Jupiter and Saturn are called the social planets. Therefore, they have a direct bearing upon society. They tell us what the world is all about. We see society changing around us. And these changes, as I said, they don't happen overnight. They happen over 20 years' time. So for those of you who are waiting for something big, which can happen, but if it doesn't, if we don't hear of like major news on the 21st of December this year, when the Great Conjunction is indeed happening, I would say be patient, because it's got 20 years to play out. And even if we hear something that we don't consider to be significant right now in the current moment, we may realize that further down the line, it affects society overall in much deeper and more profound ways than we could have imagined. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. I also want to say I've been feeling very frustrated, and my friends know this, and my clients who I've been working with very closely also know this. I've been getting very frustrated with all the astrologers out there on the internet promoting fear and using scaremongering tactics to, I don't know, to kind of like brainwash people and manipulate people. I've got to tell you, if there is one thing that the leaders of this world, the elites, like the reptilians or whoever it is, know, is if you get enough people to believe in something and to feel strong emotion attached to it, they essentially change reality around them. So please, folks, do not buy into the fear. Buy into the excitement for progress, because progress it will be. And yes, you're always going to have naysayers. And yes, there will be changes at a societal level that not all of us are going to be happy with. But there you have it. There is no point in kind of like going down like a rabbit hole of like conspiracy theories and saying, oh, I'm never getting out of my house again, and like, oh, we're gonna be like controlled with like, folks, let's chill for a second, because Aquarius is very chill. let's take a bit of a step back and stop pretending that we know what is happening at the very highest of levels. Let's do our part. Let's play our part in affecting reality, which has to do with tapping into positive emotions, gratitude, love, enjoying life in the moment, enjoying our health, enjoying the fact that we have a roof over our heads. And stop being afraid, folks, because fear is destroying our minds and our body. I've actually unsubscribed to so many people. Yes, Sunny Nights is saying the same thing on Instagram. I have unsubscribed to so many people in the past couple of months. I cannot even tell you. Even some of the astrologers, which I was saying beforehand, oh, I really like them, I appreciate them, they're amongst my favorites. I'm like, no, man, no, you cannot go around terrorizing people with these wild predictions that you have no clue whether they're going to happen or not. So, rant over. Thank you for listening. Let's talk about the key dates for the Great Conjunction. So, we've got on the 21st of December, Jupiter conjuncting Saturn in the sky at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So we've got Saturn moving into Aquarius on the 17th of December, and we've also got Jupiter moving into Aquarius on the 19th, and they come together at an exact conjunction on the 21st of December. As I've said, the themes of the Great Conjunction will unfold most likely on an individual level until at least March 2023, when Saturn is getting out of Aquarius, and at a societal level in the next 2 decades, folks. So until 2040. So that's a very, very long time. Now, what's very interesting also is pretty much for most of 2021 and 2022, we are going to have Uranus squaring at first throughout January and February. We are going to have Uranus squaring Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius, and Uranus is in the sign of Taurus. And as I said, throughout most of 2021 and 2022, it's going to continue to kind of like be in a square. Not exact all the time, but we are going to feel the energy of Uranus squaring Saturn. So it's important that we talk about the symbolism of Uranus as well. Bear with me whilst I move through the key dates. We have a very, very, very important day on the 17th of January. Jupiter is squaring Uranus exactly at 6 degrees of Aquarius. On the 17th of February, we have Saturn squaring Uranus exactly in 2021. And on the 14th of June and the 24th of December, we have 2 additional exact squares from Saturn to Uranus. So these are kind of like a few key dates that I would love for you to keep in mind, because this is when we are likely to indeed hear of specific events unfolding worldwide. So when we have big players, big planets involved, it means big news, big events. So we see things kind of like unfolding. I would say I'm probably of the mindset that the squares from Jupiter and Saturn to Uranus are going to be a lot more eventful than just the Great Conjunction by itself on the actual day. Another key date to keep in mind is the 11th of February, when we have a new moon in Aquarius, and we have in the sky, oh, thank you, Sunny Nights, for the super chat. So on the 11th of February, we have 6 planets out of 10 in the sign of Aquarius. So this is also likely to be a hugely important date when very strong Aquarius themes are coming to the surface. Now, let's talk about the symbolism of each planet involved in the Great Conjunction, and then in the first part of 2021. By the way, we have Jupiter moving outside of a 12-degree orb of conjunction to Saturn on April 3rd. So you could say, technically, that the conjunction is over on April 3rd. The first 3 months of the year of 2021 are going to be incredibly eventful. Thank you for the super chat, Andy. So let's talk about the symbolism of Saturn and what Saturn is likely to bring to us. Saturn is actually the ruler of Aquarius traditionally. It's generally associated with discipline, with structure, with the status quo, with old age, with limitations, with rules, with mastery through experience. So through doing, not through reading about it in books or whatnot. Saturn is also the ruler of patience. It rules austerity. I do want to put it out there. Saturn kind of like strips away anything that is not needed, to put it nicely, to put it bluntly. And that's why Saturn has such a bad rep, because it generally takes things away from people. It says that it's getting rid of what's no longer necessary, but we know how attached we are to, like the ego at least, how attached it is to everything that exists in our lives. And it's like, no, you've taken that away from me. So that's how Saturn acts generally. Saturn is also associated with obstacles and restrictions and challenges in the 3D material reality. It's also associated with slowness, which is very interesting. It's kind of like taking things one step at a time and carefully planning. At a mundane level, so if we look at a societal level, it is associated with the elders, with the government, with the state, with the borders, with conservative politics. It's also associated with land, real estate, and mines, and the national death rate, I have to say. Jupiter, on the other hand, which is also involved in the Great Conjunction, is the planet associated with religion, with philosophy, with belief systems, culture in general, global outreach. Jupiter amplifies, Jupiter expands, while Saturn kind of contracts. It's also associated with prosperity, with generosity, with excess and exaggeration, because there's dark sides and light sides to all planetary principles. Do not forget about that, folks. So Jupiter is not this like be all end all, the best of the best. Jupiter can be very prone to arrogance, excess, overconfidence, overstretching oneself. And Saturn can take a much more cautious but a much more grounded and realistic approach to life. So there's actually quite a few positive aspects about Saturn as well. Jupiter, let's not forget, is also associated with travel, especially long distance travel. It's associated with exploration in general of the mind and of the body. It's the planet of adventure, of experience, of wisdom, because it says that it sees the big picture and it sees the grand scheme of things. University, so higher education and morality. And at a mundane level, it rules the religious and judicial world, the national or state religion, priests, divinity, the justice system, very interestingly, because Jupiter is associated with the idea of right or wrong. It also rules the nation's wealth. And let's talk a little bit about Aquarius, because after all, they are coming together in the sign of Aquarius. So Aquarius is a fixed air sign. Fixed because it's unchanging. Those of you who have an Aquarius in their lives, they know how unwavering and how attached they are, people with strong Aquarian energy in their chart, to their beliefs and to their ideologies, I would say. It's an air sign, so it's very much concerned with ideas, with the world of ideas, with concepts, with the intellectual side of things. And until an idea is formed in the mind, it's very hard to make change in the external material world. So everything starts in the head, in the mind. And Aquarius very much knows that. Aquarius rules groups of people. It rules the average Joe. It rules technology, innovation. It's very much associated with the future because it's always looking at what's next, what's ahead. Air travel is also governed by Aquarius. Collectivism, innovation, and there is an obsession with Aquarius, which can be good or bad. I always say, folks, there's no such thing as like purely good or purely bad, especially in astrological symbolism. Things just are. And Aquarius is obsessed with breaking free from the status quo and changing the way things are. It always looks like further ahead and sees how things could be, and it looks at the future as this kind of like ultimate dream when everything is going to be perfect and ideal, and it's really attached to this idea of an ideal future, which in reality is quite hard to put into practice. Let me put it out there. Aquarius is also associated with activism, which is incredibly important in every society, but there's also a feeling of being way ahead of its times. So of the Aquarian ideas not being practical enough to be implemented in the current reality. That's why there's a certain level of disruption associated with Aquarius. And last but not least, I do want to talk quickly about Uranus, who is going to be in a square party with Saturn in Aquarius throughout most of next year and 2022. Uranus is associated with disruption, with shockwaves, rioting, outbreaks of political tension. It's also associated with the urge towards individualism, to stand out of the crowd. Scientific breakthroughs and discoveries, are very much associated with Uranus as well. Anarchy is a very Uranian concept. Demonstrations and retaliations and collective social divisions. So this is the symbolism of the players involved in the Great Conjunction, and also in the Great Conjunction and especially Saturn squaring Uranus next year. So what are we likely to experience, first of all, at a societal level in the next few years, and likely to change society for the next 2 decades? New laws regulating technology. Let's not forget, both Jupiter and Saturn are associated with lawmaking. Saturn is kind of like contract, and it establishes the boundaries. It establishes what you can't, what you can and cannot do. Jupiter is concerned with what is right and what is wrong. So from that perspective, Jupiter and Saturn are actually very similar. And I know I'm going to have people kind of like jumping at my throat saying, how are they similar? Well, they are concerned with rules and the law and what's right and wrong. So technology is not going to be able to run amok any longer, and we know it has been doing that quite a bit, especially like these technological giants in the past few years, and I'm not going to get into that. Very likely, very possibly, in the next few years, digital assets such as cryptocurrency are very likely to become mainstream. So Saturn, which is associated with the status quo, in Aquarius in particular, which is associated with the maverick, with the outsider, with what's innovative, Saturn is going to bring what is innovative and what was considered a crazy idea a while back. It's going to bring it into the mainstream. So I'm thinking specifically here, like the first example that I have in my head is cryptocurrency, but we can think here of like how electrical cars are going to become the norm. We can think here about how there's going to be a great deal of automating the work that people are doing. So there's a few ways in which technology that was considered something like a little bit niche is coming into our daily lives, and we're gonna bump into it everywhere. Innovative ideas on religion, philosophy, and belief systems are very, very likely to come into the mainstream. So Aquarius, innovative, religion, Jupiter, philosophy, also Jupiter, and bring Saturn into the mix. And Saturn is like the old school, the status quo. And practices such as astrology, which have been around for ages, but they have turned into something a little bit niche, and now they're having a resurgence. Practices that are more occult, more esoteric, or more how should I say, on the fringes of what is currently considered to be socially acceptable, they are going to come into the forefront of our experiences. And I would not be surprised, and this is obviously the Aquarian astrologer in me speaking, I would not be surprised if, like, I don't know, like 40 years from now, when you meet someone, they're gonna be like, I'm this, this, and that. This is my sun, this is my rising, this is my Venus. So I suppose that is also kind of like a dream of mine, right? There's also a very high likelihood that the judicial world and the justice system is going to be reformed in the years ahead. Aquarius is reform, and it reforms everything that it touches, in this case Saturn and Jupiter. So it reforms travel, it reforms religion, it reforms higher education, it reforms the justice system. It's like reform, change, and it says that it's focused on progress, essentially. Now, there is a possibility, and I do want to put it out there, and I know no one wants to hear this, or maybe there are a few people who do want to hear it, but Saturn is restrictions, and Aquarius is air travel, so there may be some restrictions implemented on air travel, I have to tell you, especially until Saturn gets out of Aquarius in March 2023. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened for all the good reasons, for environmental purposes, and all of that. But people are going to be annoyed. We know this. People are absolutely going to be annoyed. Saturn is also control, folks. And again, like you know me, I am no proponent of fear. I am no proponent of like scaremongering, but Saturn is control and the law, and Aquarius is masses of people, groups of people, society at large, specific tribes and communities of people. And there is a very high likelihood that using technology, there will be higher kind of like control and watch of people, kind of like keeping an eye on them, kind of like making sure that everyone stays on the straight and narrow using technology. I know I'm balking at it when I say it myself. There is very likely to be a new ideology coming into the forefront of our lives based on technology and machinery. So Jupiter is ideas. It's a belief system. It's what is considered like a source of faith and a source of optimism. So we could be looking essentially in the next couple of decades at machines as if they were some sort of gods, essentially. And technology and machinery are probably going to become as important in people's lives, if they aren't already, as their old belief systems. There's also very likely going to be a change in the next, I would say 200 years. A change from a focus to very kind of like product, materially oriented values of kind of like hoarding and acquiring, and everyone wants property in like in the past 200 years when we had the Great Conjunction in Earth signs. Everyone wanted to accumulate, to have goods and to have like more money and more goods. And now there's going to be a shift, most likely in the next 200 years, where people are going to want to accumulate ideas. People are going to want to accumulate concepts, to understand, to expand their mind. There is going to be a great expansion in how we see the world, and we are going to start to be able to see the viewpoint of marginalized societies, of marginalized groups of people, of the odd, of the eccentric, of the odd one out. I'm loving your comments, guys, by the way. I'm gonna come back to them in a jiffy. New religions, gotta tell you, like out with the old, in with the new. That it's very likely, it's very possible, I gotta say, in the next 200 years, for more and more people to leave behind old established religious systems. Someone commented when I posted about doing the live about the Great Conjunction, whether this is going to mean kind of like a return to socialism. I wouldn't say a return to socialism. I would say socialist mentalities are likely to become a lot more popular. Digital communities are also very likely to become the mainstream, are also very likely to become the norm. Higher education is probably going to continue to stay online for a very, very long time, or kind of like have a big part of its operation being run online. Jupiter is higher education, it's universities. There is likely to be an increased feeling of freedom when it comes to working and fulfilling our duty towards society. Saturn is also associated with duty and work and doing one's job, doing what we are supposed to be doing here on this planet, tangibly creating, producing something. And Aquarius is freedom. So I would say we're probably going to see flexible working and working remotely and working from anywhere, anytime, with increased autonomy, becoming the norm in the next 20 years. I would say probably in the next 3 years, and it's already in flux. Increased globalization as a result of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius. Aquarius is like, bring everyone to the party, everyone's invited. Especially those folks who you have been pushing towards the sides and who you probably preferred not to kind of like keep track of. Let's put it this way. I do want to say this. Uranus squaring Saturn and Jupiter, especially in the first 3 months of the year, is very likely to result in cyber attacks. Uranus is going to be in Taurus. Taurus is associated with money. It's going to be in a square with Aquarius, which is going to say, you know what, I've had enough, give me some of that. Or, you know what, why should you be hoarding all of the money? Or, you know what, we're going to cut your supply to your most precious assets. So I would say, cyber attacks are very, very, very likely in the first 3 months of 2021, as are protests, as are demonstrations. And I'm very curious to see how this is going to play out, my lovelies. Using technology and ideas to replace human need for material desire is also going to probably be a major theme for the next 20 years. Air, which we are moving into for the next 200 years, is very light. It does not like to be pinned down. It does not like to be contained. It doesn't like restrictions. It doesn't want kind of like this big bag of stuff kind of like going around with it, because it makes freedom of movement very hard. So I am going to say probably we are going to see a big turn towards minimalism when it comes to possessions, which I can only be excited about, because it's for the good of the planet. It's for the sake of the planet. I mean, yes, on an individual level, we might be rolling our eyes and saying, oh, why can't I buy this much? But I think people will become more enlightened and realize we don't need stuff. What we need is freedom. What we need is increased autonomy. What we need is to be able to move freely all over the world and do the jobs that feel purposeful. Saturn in Aquarius is purposeful work. Aquarius is social causes. Saturn is work. So yes, it is indeed going to be an interesting period historically, Amanda. I couldn't agree more. There's also a very high likelihood, by the way, Aquarius is a little bit obsessive about transparency and the truth. So Aquarius is all about like, do not insult my intelligence. I want to know the truth. I want to see what's happening. You can't fool me. Show me the numbers. Show me the data. I want to be able to analyze them. So especially in the there's probably going to be an increased transparency of what is happening to world wealth, folks. Uranus and Taurus, there is going to be some shocking developments when it comes to the world's wealthiest and to the world's wealth. Let's put it this way. Also, I think it's very interesting to note that if we think once again about cryptocurrency, the blockchain technology that is powering cryptocurrency can be used in many other types of industries. So blockchain technology keeps a track record of every single move. It keeps a track record of every single transaction. So there will be no more losing track of funds through offshore accounts, umbrella companies, everyone kind of like being like between kind of like smoke and mirrors and working behind the scenes and relying on the people to kind of like stay passive and just accept that this is the way the world works. No, folks, I gotta put it out there. I'm very excited because Aquarius is the people and Saturn is the law and Jupiter is right and wrong. So in the grand scheme of things, in the next 20 years, the power will lie more. Can't even talk. I'm going out on a rant here. The power will be much more in the hands of the people, no matter what we're seeing around us. There's going to be a revolt. Yes, we can feel it. It's around us. We're looking at all the protests. We're looking at people getting annoyed with the status quo. We're looking at people wanting to break free from the shackles of convention. And they're just not going to, and I say we are not going to swallow what the status quo shoves down our throat gladly any longer. Like, it's already happening. It is absolutely already happening. A lot of people, I have to say, Aquarius is independence, and Saturn is associated, as I said, with work as well, with our career in general, with career status. A lot more people in the next 3 years, in the next 2.5 years, are going to switch to working for themselves, to being freelancers, to being contractors, to being treated as equal parties and not just being a cog in the wheel of like huge corporations. So support your friends who run small businesses because they are going to become the norm. Everyone's going to want to be their own boss. Everyone's going to want to be free, and everyone's going to want to be treated as an equal. So not so much kind of like hierarchy. It's like there's no longer the top of the pyramid and like the plebeians like us be like, just throw me a few crumbs, please, all you wealthy people out there. No, not gonna happen any longer. So I am all up for that. I'm very excited, folks. You can absolutely tell. I've got a few things to share for each zodiac sign. So the great conjunction for Aries is going to happen on the 21st of December and active until, like the effects of it, active until March 2023. In the 11th house of hopes, dreams, set yourself up on the path of achieving a new big dream, my dear Aries, especially Aries rising in the next 2.5 years. You are ending 3 years of hardship related to your career. Now it's time to dream big and to look towards the future, Aries. If you are a Taurus Sun, or Taurus rising, the great conjunction is happening in Aquarius in your house of career. In the next 2.5 years, you are going to reach an increased level of independence related to your career. You're ready for it. Your whole belief system has been restructured in the past 3 years, since December 2017, my apologies. So now it's time to put into practice your new way of looking at the world. Gemini Suns and Gemini risings. The great conjunction is happening for you in Aquarius in the 9th house. Boy, are you up for a spiritual enlightenment and for a hugely exciting, intellectually 2.5 year journey, my lovely Geminis. New teacher entering into your life, new intellectual endeavor that you embark upon. And I have to put it out there, Geminis in particular may do a lot of traveling in the next 2.5 years, especially long distance traveling. Cancerians, Cancer Suns and Cancer risings. The great conjunction is happening in Aquarius in the 8th house. Folks, in the next 2.5 years, you are going to go through the psychological transformation of your life. Andy, thank you for the super chat. Cancerians, in the next 2.5 years, you're also probably going to reap the rewards of your investments, and the work that you do on yourself on a psychological level is going to pay off for the next 3 decades to come. So go to therapy, face your shadow, dive into your subconscious, do that past life regression, have as much sex as possible because that's also healing. Just go do it. Leo suns and Leo risings. The great conjunction is happening for you in Aquarius in your 7th house of partnerships. Boy, are you going to be welcomed by the world. So you are committing to a long-term partnership in the next 2.5 years. A lot of you are going to get married throughout this transit. A lot of you are going to find a long-term business partner to support you. It's a very exciting time relationship-wise, Leos. Virgo suns and Virgo risings. The great conjunction is happening in Aquarius in your 6th house. In the next 2.5 years, you are going to be overhauling your approach to your health. You're going to give up on habits that no longer serve you. You're going to become even more disciplined than usual, and even more aware of how your mind affects your body. So there's going to be like a stronger synergy between the body and the mind. And let me put it out there, you are going to work like no one's business, Virgos. And I gotta say, you're probably going to enjoy it because you enjoy the work regardless. Now, if you are a Libra sun or a Libra rising in particular, the great conjunction is going to be happening for you in Aquarius in the 5th house, the house of love, creativity, romance. So for the next 2.5 years, I got to say, you're probably going to be committing to someone for the long run. There's a monumental change happening romantically for you. You may experience an increased need for freedom in your relationships, but also see your romantic relationships with new eyes. And not to mention, since Jupiter is going to be on your side for for 2021, essentially, a lot of you Libra risings are probably going to create a baby. It can be a physical human baby, or it can be a creative baby. It can be a baby project. If you are a Scorpio sun or a Scorpio rising, the great conjunction for you is happening in Aquarius in your 4th house of home and family. In the next 2.5 years, you are most likely moving into a new home, making changes to your home and family life, probably bringing in a new member, probably feeling an increased sense of duty and responsibility to your family and especially to your parents, and probably also realizing how important creating a stable family environment and home environment is for your greater sense of well-being in the long run. A lot of you are actually going to buy homes or move to a new home in the next 2.5 years, Scorpio risings. Sagittarius suns and Sagittarius risings, oh my days, you are in for 2.5 years of learning like no one's business, but you're going to be learning tangible, practical skills, and a great part of these are probably going to be very much related to technology or the digital world. Capricorn suns and Capricorn risings. The great conjunction is happening for you in the 2nd house of financial stability, your income, and your values and your sense of self-worth. You are going to be updating what you consider valuable and important in life tremendously in the next 2.5 years. You're going to be updating your priorities, my dear Capricorns, and you're going to be incredibly focused on creating financial stability for you for the long term. So you're going to be planning your finances for the long term. You're probably going to be kind of like getting everything in check, like your pension plan, your investment. And throughout 2021, there is likely going to be an opportunity to make a lot more money than you have been making in the past 12 years. So take it. Aquarius suns and Aquarius risings. The great conjunction is happening in our 1st house. I mean, I'm an Aquarius sun, not an Aquarius rising. So especially Aquarius risings. You are completely changing your identity. You are probably going to be stripping away the parts of yourself that no longer are in alignment with who you want to be in the world. I gotta say, a lot of people are probably going to change their appearance. A lot of people are probably going to experience loss of weight as well. And you're probably going to be feeling a lot more responsible and mature and wanting to create something durable and something tangible with your life for the next 2.5 years, my lovely Aquarians. So don't be afraid if the Great Conjunction, because I have gotten some people saying, oh, I'm afraid it's happening in my first house. Do not be afraid, folks. Embrace the changes. You are getting rid of what no longer serves you, and you are getting your life on track and in order. You are narrowing your focus, and you're saying, this is who I want to be, and I'm just going to go out there and do it. Andy, thank you for the super chat. I'm on Aquarius right now. Last but not least, Pisces. Thank you so much for waiting, Pisces. Pisces Suns and Pisces Risings. The Great Conjunction is happening in your 12th house. For the next 2.5 years, my lovely Pisces, you are going to have to learn how to rest. You are going to have to learn to look inwards a lot more. Don't be afraid to spend time by yourself. Don't be afraid to face your fears, because they are 2.5 years of digging deep into your subconscious and seeing who are my hidden enemies buried deep within my psyche that I do not want to face. And you may find some gold mine down there. You may find a few demons, but until you acknowledge them, until you say hello to them, until you face them, you cannot be reborn. From 2023 onwards, my lovely Pisces, you are essentially going to be called to let go of some of the structures that you have built in your life. The 12th house is associated with dissolution, and in the 12th house, we've got to surrender. We've got to surrender to divinity. We've got to surrender to God's plan. And we cannot let the ego get in the way of what is in our best karmic spiritual interest. Spiritual enlightenment also very, very likely, whatever that means. For you, my dear Pisces, there's a lot of changes happening for you, Pisces, but especially on Pisces risings in particular, but especially on an internal level. You may be having all sorts of like aha moments and saying, oh, so this is why I acted like this. Oh, so this is where this is coming from. Boy, that was a marathon. Thank you so much for you guys sticking around with me. I am posting the video on my YouTube channel. I'm going to try to post it on Instagram as well. Sometimes Instagram does not allow me to save the video as an IGTV video, but whenever it does allow me to save the live, I will save it. Is this date good for anything in particular, like planning for the future or setting goals? Very good question from Susu on Instagram. Yes. It is a fantastic date based on where the Great Conjunction is happening to set intentions for the future. So really take a very objective, because Aquarius is objective and sober and detached and analytical. And it's kind of like stepping away from emotional entanglement. It's stepping away from what the ego would like to hear and saying, okay, in this part of my life, I need to upgrade it. I realize there has to be a revolution happening. I've got to let go of some of my old attachments, some of my old ways. And I have to focus on rebuilding, or on building from scratch, on taking this part of my life where the Great Conjunction is happening to the next level. I would literally, you guys know me, and whoever works with me as a client as well, you know I'm a big fan of lists. Write it down. Aquarius is air. Write it, verbalize your intention, verbalize your goals, verbalize what part of your life you want to turn around, you want to take into the future. And yes, it's a fantastic time to say, okay, I am doing this because it is going to contribute to my greater autonomy, independence, and freedom, and feeling authentic in the long run. Talia, thank you so much for the super chat. Pisces Ascendant, so you are going to be going in the next 2.5 years through a deep spiritual enlightenment, and you may be feeling like you are tapping into higher dimensions and you are receiving insight from higher dimensions, especially from your dreams for Pisces Ascendants. Question, can we expect this energy 3 days before and on the day like a moon, or more of a slow burner as it's long term? So Emily, that is a very, very good question. So the actual Great Conjunction is happening on the 21st, but you're probably going to feel the, it's a slow burner. You're probably going to feel the effect of it, I gotta say, from the middle of December. So from like, what is it now? It's the 2nd, from like the 14th, 15th of December until pretty much March, until the end of March. So yeah, the day can be the day itself. We can read stuff in the news and we can already see glimpses of how it's likely to play out, but it is more of a slow burner. And the full effects, as I said, are likely to unfold on an individual level in the next 2.5 years till March 2023, societally in the next 20 years. Question: since a new year is approaching, what energies are we working with in January of 2021? A lot of Aquarius energy, Aquarius and Taurus. We've got a lot of innovative, progressive energy, and also we've got the status quo kind of like hanging on for dear life and trying to get us back on track and trying to get us all information. And the people are going to say, no, we do not want to get information. And guess what's going to happen there? Very likely demonstrations, protests, riots, and actual earthquakes, by the way, because Uranus in Taurus is earthquakes. And with more Aquarius energy, there can be like more earthquakes. Let's put it this way. Cancer rising. Is this a major psychological shift? Yes, absolutely. You will dig deeper into your psyche, Priscilla, than you have dug in the past 2.5 years. And it's through your intimate partnerships that you will do this the most, or through your attitude towards intimacy in general. Concerts, summer 2021. Economic reset. Okay, so economic reset, 100%. By the way, I do want to put it out there. There is likely going to be a recession, a financial crisis, the way I see it playing out. I'm looking at the astrology in the sky. Uranus and Taurus is disruption of the economic system, squared by Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius, which is once again more disruption, because the people need more money, they need more resources, and the governments have been kind of like essentially distributing funds, but it's not going to be enough, and there is likely to be a slump, especially January, February, March. It's probably going to get better economically from April onwards. That is my take on things. Concerts in summer 2021. I say hell yeah. And that's because I'm an eternal optimist. I would say yes, probably as of mid-June 2021, we're probably going to be able to go back to kind of like meeting people in large spaces, outdoors. I would say June, because I'd say we probably have to wait for the second part of eclipse season on the Gemini Sagittarius axis to play out. So yes. What about curing health issues? Oh my God, oh my days. Like, I gotta tell you, like the way I'm envisaging this to play out, Aquarius is innovation. Saturn is associated with old age. So I gotta say, there's probably gonna be some innovative technologies coming up in the next 20 years that are going to prolong life. And they're essentially gonna tackle the very source of what is causing cells to die, because Saturn is associated with old age and also death, with decay. Cancer, Sun, Libra rising. Can this baby be related to helping others? It can be a project, essentially. It can be a project of helping others, but it's got to be kind of like your baby, I would say. Mandatory vaccinations. The way I see this playing out is governments are probably going to say, no, they're not mandatory. You can take them or leave them. But then when you try to travel, or when you try to kind of like go to like a big venue type of event, they're going to say, where's your vaccine? So they may not sound mandatory on the surface, but they may essentially set up society in such a way that if you do not in the long term get this whole thing, it's kind of like preventing you from socializing, which is obviously not ideal, and I'm not laughing at that. Let me put it out there. Is it a good start for a new project for Sagittarius with Capricorn rising? Let's take a quick look. Yes, because it's gonna make you, it's gonna produce a lot of money, my dear Antonia. So yes, absolutely, do start it. How about new career paths? Gemini Sun, Aquarius rising. Aquarius rising, hell yeah. Like Saturn is associated with career and status. And in your own sign, I would say you're going to redefine yourself in alignment with your new career. Will Pisces rising be moving to a new home too? I would say it's like the great conjunction is not related to this, but the eclipses are triggering your house of your axis of like home and career. So by next year, yes, there is a possibility. Folks, it looks like Instagram is going to kick me out. There is so much to talk about. I think I might be doing like a Q&A video, like in particular for this one. But let me just plan that out. I want to thank all of you for joining me. It's been such a pleasure, and it's been such a relief to be able to talk about this with you guys, because I've been hearing, like, I've been listening to all of these things, and it's just gotten me in a tizzy. I'm like, I need to get out there and express my stance on the Great Conjunction. Also, for those of you who are new to my channel and who don't know exactly like how I work and what I practice, I am a practicing astrologer, and you can purchase personalized readings and one-to-one consultations from me from my website, which is writteninthestars-astrology.com. Thank you once again for joining, and I'll be back soon. Always a pleasure to be with you.